In the next two problems, we'll look at programs that deal with if statements. Our first example will be a bit more challenging because instead of giving a detailed specification of what's to be done in the problem statement, the problem statement simply says, we've given you a sample program, you should match it. So that means we're going to have to run a different program to see what the format of the input and output should be. I won't show you running it on the other program, but you'll see the prompts that I give to the program here. So here is our problem statement. Now, this is also interesting in that it uses an external file for some data, which we're going to paste here. Now, if you know Python, you may recognize that I've used a bad file name, and that will eventually come back to get fixed. But for now, you can see that it's giving me errors that I don't yet understand, so I'm ignoring. So I'm going to prompt for an account number. This is an ATM style program. So I'm going to tell in the prompt the way I want the text prompt to be. So when I press enter, it will give me some code that I can tab and accept. Next, I'll ask for a PIN, and I'll specify the format of the PIN, of the prompt for the PIN. And so there we have our prompt. Now, we want to validate the account number. Now, that is, first, is it 7 digits long? If not, then there's a particular way we want the error message to print, and we'll then exit. Instead of giving us code, it's giving us a new prompt or a new comment that's to be used as a prompt. It's not using line 21 actually to generate code. So after several attempts, we're just going to delete everything after it and try again. When we hit enter this time, we get some good code. Now, the next prompt, it turns out, is indented, so it doesn't know that it should start at the left. So we'll backspace. Now we're going to go through entering the PIN again, and then prompt for that. This is code that we deleted to get the account length checked properly. So there's that. Now it says, well, maybe you should check for the digit length for the PIN. Turns out our program doesn't need to do that. So instead, we're going to try to validate it. And the validation needs a certain error message for this assignment. So we'll go ahead and put the expected error message. The code it's generating says, is the account number in the ATM data PIN? Now, that probably would have worked, but I wasn't thinking of it quite that way. So I'm going to try to look up the user data. And so it says, well, is it in the PIN keys? And no, I really want the name. So let's try again, prompting to say, please find the user name associated with the account number stored in a variable. That looks nice. So then find the PIN. Okay, that's good. And then find the balance. So that's another nice thing. So we've got reading our data from our separate file. But here's where we're going to look to see if the error, if the user's not found. How will it check? Well, it turns out that a good way to check is the username is none, which is something that a Python dictionary will return if the key is not found. Now, I pressed down arrow intending to accept the code, but that simply deleted it because you need to press tab to accept the code. So I backspaced, went to the end of line 31 and hit return again, and it patiently prompted me with the good code. And so this time I'm going to press tab to accept the code, go back to the beginning of the line, and now it turns out because the keys for the pin is the same, we know that it will have done a successful lookup of the pin. So now we just want to validate that the pin. So we will put in a prompt to validate the pin. The pin matches the pin associated with the account number. So that code looks reasonable. So we'll accept that, go back to the beginning, and then we have the balance. Now, I'd like to put in a prompt, welcome, and then a menu. So here I'm going to give a little bit more of a description than just a single line comment saying, I want to welcome the user by name and prompt this way. Here, I don't want the comma, I don't want an exclamation point, I want to say, what would you like to do? And a colon rather than a question mark. And then check the, do a balance lookup, balance inquiry, and then deposit, withdrawal. And then the next option that it offers us is a exit. Very reasonable option, but that's not what this assignment is asking for. So I'll take that option off and just proceed with the code. So it's going to do a print. I'm just doing tab and enter to accept those. And then a new line, prompt for a menu choice. Okay, but I may want to change the wording of the prompt. And here I want a capital C, enter choice. And so we'll do that, and then it gives me the code for that. Next, if the menu is 1, I want to print the balance. Okay, and then if the menu is 2, I want to prompt for amount to deposit. Okay, so it will put in that. Now it's offering some code to also check that the balance must be greater than 0. So I'm going to accept that and then work off of 3 with the withdraw amount. Notice this time instead of it saying withdraw amount, it said amount to withdraw. It was copying my earlier one. And then if we don't have it, we're going to say an invalid choice. But actually, I really want, instead of saying invalid menu choice, I want to say invalid selection. I'm going to press enter, but it doesn't put anything in. So now if I delete the code that's there, it prompts. So I can go ahead and run, try this out, see what it does. Well, now we're facing our problem with the poorly named file. So I'm going to try putting quotes around it just to see if that solves the problem. It's still unhappy. So I'm going to try, I think probably the problem is that the file name starts with digits, which is okay for file names, but not so much in syntax in Python code. So I'm going to rename the file so that it doesn't start with a digit. I'll just give it an underscore, which is a little bit of an odd thing, but it should be legal anyway. So now we'll take that off, copy that name, and paste it below in the places that we need to put it. And so that should solve our file name problem. So we'll try running again. So enter account number. I'm going to go look up an account number from a data file, put it in, enter the PIN, and then it gives me the prompt, and I can pick choice 1. This time, let's try entering a short account number. Well, it must be 7 digits. This time, let's put in an account number that's not valid. And in this case, it doesn't match our records. Then we can try, looks like we've misspelled records, so we'll fix that, actually editing the code directly rather than having the system edit it for us. So now we'll put in an account number, try a deposit, and deposit 500. You notice it doesn't look like a very good number. So how are we going to handle that? Well, you really should not be using floating point numbers for financial calculations. That's just a bad thing to do. But I'm going to continue to do that and just say, let's round the amount to 2 digits, 2 decimal places. And it says, okay, we can do that. Here's the things that would need to be done to accept, to make that. So we'll go ahead and accept. Notice though, it's gotten a little bit messed up on the indents. So we have problems with indents. Here, some things are indented 2, some things are indented 4, so we're going to just try to clean up the indents all around. And that may solve it. So let's go ahead and see if there's any further evidence of poorly named things. Now, you notice it's offering more prompts. It wants to write more code, and we do need the error message. That seems to be something that got lost last time. So we'll put that in, it's finding it, and then exiting. So that looks fine. But again, our prompt or our error message isn't quite phrased the way we want it. So we'll update that, and then we're going to adjust the tabs, save. If we enter, it's now looks like it's good. We can try putting in the proper account number and a PIN and a deposit, and we get the proper balance. So this looks good. The next problem will be a rock, paper, scissors assignment. So we're going to paste the problem description in, and it's a fairly detailed description. So notice the system wants to add a comment that says path. Well, that's not really necessary, so we take that off. But then it wants to put another path. So we'll write our own prompt for random seed. And in fact, we'll tell it what to give. And then based on that prompt, it's giving us another comment line that says the computer has chosen and so must you. Well, that's not the prompt we want. We want it to actually give us the code for the prompt. So I'm going to ask Copilot to give me several solutions. The first suggestion is one that actually includes an import, a prompt for the random seed, and some more print statements. So I'm going to accept that solution. And that adds some nice code. Now, it's going to then give us the random choice for the computer. And if I had looked more carefully, I would have seen that there's a description of this function that says including both endpoints. But I skimmed over that and decided to ask the Copilot a chat. So tell me what the range of values that the random answers. In some cases, the final argument is just beyond the endpoint, and I want to know if it's inclusive of the final value. And it says, let's take a look. Yes. In this case, it will return either 1, 2, or 3. So that's what I want. So now I'm going to check that the user input is valid. And at this point, I pressed the wrong thing, and so it deleted it. So I'm going to go back to that line, put it back in again, and press Tab to accept it. Then it wants to convert the user input to a string. I don't think that we need to do that. That doesn't seem at all useful. So I'm going to escape or delete that, and then let the computer choose again. I accidentally deleted that, so it puts it back in. Now, it's saying something about print computer. Perhaps that's a reasonable prompt, but I would rather see something print what computer chooses. That seems better. So we'll go ahead and see if computer equals 1, then it chose rock, it chose paper, it chose scissors, and then we'll go on and add another prompt for print the result. And if user is computer equals, pick the same thing, it's a tie, otherwise we lose. And so from here on out, it's just a computer program that does the various comparisons on rock, paper, scissors combinations. It's a bit of a brute force approach. There might be ways of making it more efficient if we had lots of choices, but this is tolerable. So I'm going to go ahead and run it and then try out the various things. I'll use the seed that was given in the sample just so I always have the same results so that the computer always chooses rock and I can try the different choices. And then we will also try an invalid choice to see if the error message comes through correctly. For that, it doesn't matter what our seed is. So it looks like everything's working well.